We're working with these lads all day, every day, but we just don't get the time to sit and listen to them like this.
Deep down, a lot of these big shots are in for you anyway, and I know it.
Not everyone's on the same page or singing from the same hymn sheet.
There's a reason why people have ended up on drugs, and normally where there's drugs, there's trauma.
I'm still here to tell my story. There is another pathway.
I get more job satisfaction doing what I do now than I ever did in the jail.
They're the ones who are calling the shots when they really don't understand. Is that the problem?
Don't cry about it, because that's life. That's the life you live in, and that's how it is.
Right, Lenny. Well, just really a reflection on Rod's story and Rod's journey, and from your perspective, how did you find it?
Oh, so interesting, inspiring, pleasing.
In what respect?
The fact that, for many reasons, I suppose it's more now that Rod's been on a journey and he's come out of it at the other end, and he's putting something back. Mm-hmm. And also the fact that he remembers some of the things which I taught him from all them years ago. But it's very interesting to sit and talk, that we've got the time to sit and talk.
Right.
Because in the job, when you're in the job, although it might sound really strange, we're working with these lads all day, every day, but we just don't get the time. We're not afforded the time to sit and listen to them like this, and I just think that that's lost.
Yeah.
That's really lost. There's expectations on us to do a certain job, but we're really there to try and do something with these lads, but we're not afforded the time.
Yeah.
And to sit and listen to Gary and to Rod is just something that needs to be done. It needs to be reintroduced. It needs to be more emphasis put on it, because it isn't just all about us. It's about them, and listening is more important to me. But like I say, it's just interesting that we've probably nearly got 90 odd years worth of experience with them, but we haven't got that experience, because we never got the time to listen and to learn from them. And I think it's kind of frowned upon that we sit and listen to these lads.
Well, I don't think, and I've said this, 28 years in the job, and I agree with you. You don't really get to know them on a human level.
No, that's good.
You get on with some lads and you don't get on with others, and that's just life.
That's life.
That's just the stuff, let alone the prisoners. For me, when Gary came in 2017, from what he was to what I was observing as a human being, because I used to have a very black and white view on crime. And it was, if you don't like jail, don't commit crime. If you don't want to be an addict, don't take drugs. It was that simple to me, very blinkered. But I learned a lot from Gary when you talk to them on a human level and get to know the background. And there's 100 different reasons why people end up in jail. Their upbringing. I never really understood, how life can desensitize you to certain things.
110%. You went through that story about you nearly didn't get in. You were nearly escorted off the premises. You nearly.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
I turned left instead of right. Had I not, I'd have been on the other side.
We've all been there.
My brother ended up in prison. Same family, same upbringing. He went to jail. I didn't. I went the other side of the fence, if you like.
I get that.
And that's not to say I didn't. It was very petty crime. But eventually you get caught, don't you? And I could end up in jail so simply.
This episode is brought to you by Curious Matter Productions, turning up the volume on society's forgotten voices. The series Hope in Hell is a platform for amplifying raw, real stories of survival, despair and triumph, told through open, honest and powerful conversations, because no matter what life throws at you, there's always hope.
So I got a far greater understanding. I thought I really enjoyed Rod's story, because it was a rocky road, is probably putting it mildly, and what he had to go through, and the life sentence. But I do understand how he got there. You know, when you hear his story when he was young,
My jaw dropped at a few things.
the influences he had around him, because I had that, but obviously Rod took that extra step. Whereas if I hadn't joined the military, for sure I would have been sharing a cell with him.
Yeah,
probably.
That's what I mean. But
That's
it's
where I was
just so interesting, and I think the work that he's doing now and the work that Gary's doing now shouldn't be overlooked as that. It should be the main part of it. I remember we were talking about. Can you remember when we used to do Prison Me No Way?
Yeah.
And we used to go into schools, and we used to, and I just think if you pull all that together.
But that was effective, Len.
Yes,
Yeah,
but who? Why did they stop it, and why do they not? Why do they not engage with these guys more?
The likes of Rod and Gary.
Yes, why? Yeah. And I think that question's got to be asked.
Because I don't think they see the value in it. What they know the value of £1, but they don't know the value of that. Do they?
Does this come back to what I said before, where there's at ministerial level and academics and they're the ones who are calling the shots when they really don't understand. Is that the problem?
They don't understand the coalface for me.
I'd love, although I've found it inspiring to sit here and listen to these guys. After 37 years, I know now. I know nothing.
Yeah, I think I've learned more since I've left the job, thanks to, obviously we go into prisons, do work with prisoners now. And what I've got now, I don't have a uniform on now, and they treat you different.
Yes.
All right, I was an ex-screw, and they don't like us once I tell them that, but we generally get past that. They talk to you more openly, and you get to know about the background, you get to know about the trauma, you get to know about the circumstances.
It's not easy for these guys to do that, is it?
As an officer, I never got that, although I got on with a lot of lads, I never got to that level, which I can now, and that's why, when I left the job, there was a few of my ex-colleagues were like, has Tom gone down the dark side, like, working with an ex-con? Because it was like them and us, wasn't it?
Well, that's just them judging you, isn't it?
Well, that's right, but I was like,
problem.
I get more job satisfaction doing what I do now than I ever did in the jail.
I think that might come back to being a prison officer is kind of rote, isn't it? You go in every day and you've got to do X, Y, Z. You just don't get the time to do
it's the time, absolutely.
They can come out with all these headlines of what the prison service is all about, recidivism, rehabilitation and all this, that and the other, but they're just words on a piece of paper. And when you listen to these guys, I'm not saying that these are true stories and they need to be told and people need to listen. And it would be very interesting for me, although they wouldn't do it, for the people that I've just talked about who make the rules and who come out with all these wonderful, wonderful word salads, because that's all it is, for them to sit down and listen to these
Absolutely,
guys. 100%. How would they feel? Would it change them? Would it,
Without a doubt.
And I just think that's where it needs to go. It needs to be broken right back down. I'm in awe of these guys.
Well, I've said it, and it's a true story. I met Gary in 2017 when he came back into Durham to do some work with, when I challenged him. I actually came out of that. Words. No, I did. He said I stitched him. I didn't. It was a challenge. I became a better prison officer because of what I'd heard and seen, and with that lad. Yeah. And that hasn't happened often in my life, where people have changed my opinion to that degree. But it certainly changed mine, and I think these people in authority would benefit from it. And I actually think...
Why do they get lost, though? Why do they get lost?
But something else is missing, Lenny, and it's something Gary suggested, because he's a genius.
After a pair of eyes.
No, it is. I actually think staff would benefit from the likes of Rod and Gary.
Yes.
Honestly, I think there was so much benefit from that.
It really is a good point. But if you went and suggested that, or you tried to get staff to engage with that, how many of them?
Some would, but I would say we get a patrol officer sat with us, right? Without exception, they've all really enjoyed it.
Yes. And this is what I mean.
So I think they'd benefit massively from...
But we're all guilty of judging people, aren't we? We're all guilty of that. But for me, it's when I said about jails being really complex, they are really complex. it's a fact, but the real reason why we're there is lost.
Yeah, but
And it depends on the type. Sorry, Tom. It depends on the type of jail as well. You know, I don't think, for example, in HMP Durham is always just going to be a warehouse. That's all it's going to be, and that's all it's going to be. So that what's done at HMP Durham should be different to what's done at Kirk Levington. Should be different to what's done at Franklin, because they've got more time. Mm-hmm. But I still think it's lost. There's
not anything, for me, there's not any one thing wrong with the prison system. There's just a lot of things wrong with it.
Yes,
and that goes from recruitment now.
That's a great point.
That's changed. It used to be ex-military. I think that should, but they're recruiting young people who have no real life experience, talking to lads who are doing big chunks of time. And, you know, how do you cannot marry them too, like. So recruitment needs to be sorted. I think the policymakers need to get involved more in, like Rod and Gary and people like that.
It's just
to better understand why people. It's like, I used to look at a drug addict, like you walk through D wing, the methadone wing, and there's a reason why people have ended up on drugs. Uh-huh. And normally where there's drugs, there's trauma. You know what I mean? But you haven't got that time to explore it, yeah.
More crime.
You know, and if they're robbing somebody, it's robbing to feed a habit because of the child or whatever.
I found it interesting that
I never used to think like that, mind.
That Rod said when he was in there, he felt like he had to be. And Gary mentioned that you have to be ready. You have to adapt to that.
But you wear a mask, don't you? That's what you do, yeah.
And it's kind of, well.
But so do officers.
Yes, you just stole my thunder.
So do officers.
So you just stole my thunder, because we're different when we come out of there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Than when we go in there. So it's just, I don't think anybody will find the answer. But this needs to be adopted to try it. And it's got mileage. It really has got mileage.
This is a similar situation. I've said this to Gary. It's like Durham had a certain way of doing things. Now, there might be a shortcut through that door there, but you can't use it because we've never used it. When you ever tried to introduce something new, I mean, like, I can remember, even though a governor stole the credit and got vouchers for it, I started the PID workers in Durham.
Right.
You know, that, and the resistance I got from staff, prisoners doing that and doing that and doing, but we'd just been cut to the bone. It was 2014 when we went through the PIP process.
Yes.
And I was just looking at a way of making it easier for the staff.
Yeah.
But the resistance, you cannot have prisoners do. But now, it's almost countrywide.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? But it took. I'm not bigging myself up, but I just wouldn't let it go, because I said I'm asking to make your job easier.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's to your benefit. I'm not. You know, there's no other reason for it.
But that's the thing.
But trying to get change was so hard.
You must have heard the saying, digressing a little bit, thousands and thousands of times. Prison officers just don't like change.
Yeah, they don't.
You know, and I'm guilty. I'm very guilty. You know, I probably didn't like some of the suggestions which were given.
Get away.
Particularly about PE, but that was because I'd been.
You were passionate.
That's because of the likes of the Jack Athertons of this world, the likes of the PEIs who I looked up to, who were old school and this, that and the other. I always remember a guy, you probably never met him or heard of him, John Smith. He was a area PE governor, and Durham was going through some building work at the time, and they were relocating us to where it is right now. And he came in, and John was just transferring from Castington to Durham. And obviously coming from Castington to Durham is worlds apart. And we were standing in a bare room. There was nothing in it. It was like a bomb site. And we were standing there with hard hats on. And this John Smith, the area PE manager, said, he says, don't put any equipment in here. He says, just make it a gymnasium. and run the backsides off them with bunny hops and burpees and all this, that and the other. And I stood there and I looked at him and I thought, well, that's old school. We're not there now.
It's not a Borstal, is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But when I spoke to him later, he said exactly that. You know, Borstals worked and that type of thing worked. Well, it obviously didn't.
It didn't.
It didn't. In your head, it did.
It works for some.
Yeah, in your head it did. But again, he was resistant to change.
Yeah, it's hard.
And it is very difficult, but it's like 100% we just don't know best.
Yeah.
You know,
Some people think they do, yeah, I agree.
Anyway, it's just been absolute eye-opener for me.
Yeah, I've learned quite a bit from Rod, to be fair. I really enjoyed that. Yeah.
You know, and I resonated with a few things which he said and empathised with a few things he said about the family unit and so on and so on. And it's, is it a case of what's the saying there, but for the grace of God go I, you know? And
it's a question I should have asked Rod and Gary, to be fair, is if they had a magic wand, what changes would they make in the prison service, in the prisons, to make them better places? It's maybe a question for later.
Yeah. But you see, people would they would admonish you for that. If you were to ask that question.
Well, like I say, change isn't easy, so depends if you're up for the fight. And I'm resilient. I'm going to make change.
100%.
Make some changes.
So, mate, just again, thank you so much for today. And it was just really, I think, for us to kind of to talk about and reflect upon how you think the day's gone. And for me, a big thing, sitting with two former prison officers who, you know, have done decades and decades in the job, who you know, I work with one of them, you know, he's a colleague of mine today, a friend of mine. And, you know, I mean, mind's blown that we would both be sitting here after our journey with two former prison officers, all of us talking about rehabilitation, recovery, love, changing the system, you know, all of those things. And for me, I don't think that's ever been done before. So I feel quite blessed that we've had that opportunity given to us today.
Yeah, no, absolutely blown away. I think it was a marvellous opportunity for myself to have had been able to touch base with Lenny, like not seeing him since 1993. But you know, some of them good shared experiences that were had, and knowing that he was one of the good ones, is great. And what stands out for me, Gary, more so, is listening to the two guys, Tom and Len, speak, sharing that, you know, for them there was a us and them within the management structure of the prison service as well, that, you know, not everyone's on the same page or singing from the same hymn sheet. And I think, like, you know, as being the other side of the fence for so long, you don't hear about that, you don't see it.
No.
And it's been good to hear that with my own ears, and know the veracity of it being spoken was so true.
Well, I think we've talked about, you know, again, raging against the machine and hatred for prison officers. I mean, when I was away, I got on with a lot of prison officers. I liked a lot of prison officers. I respect a lot of prison officers. I very rarely hated them, but I never looked at them like they were human people. I never thought about them outside of work. I didn't think that they went on holidays, they had a life, they had a family. They're just doing the job. To me, they're in a uniform, and, you know, they're with the control mechanism of the state.
Yeah.
And so I just looked at them all as one. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Very few times. I mean, you know, I've been surrounded by a good few. I've never been nicked in any of my sentences. I should have been. But there's only one particular guy who really dug me out and tried to make things really difficult, because they can.
Yeah.
You know, and I think hearing you talk about that before, and you know, Tom and Lenny, you know, prison is a difficult place. We deserve to be there. We've admitted that. And if you are a career criminal who makes the choices to break the law and you end up in prison, don't cry about it. Because that's life. That's the life you live in, and that's how it is. If you get hurt, someone else gets hurt, or one of your family gets hurt because of your actions, that's life. That is down to you. You know, but I don't think the difficult situation of prison should be made more difficult by your letters being held back, by the shower that you could have not been given. by opening the door that you might need to get through. You know, you've just missed the gym by 1 millisecond and the door's locked for you.
Yeah.
To make the day more difficult than it already is. I don't like that particular kind of prison officer, but they are out there. But I suppose they're out there in every single place. They're in every office. They're in every doctor's surgery.
Every factory.
They're in every factory. So there are them people out there. But in general, for me, you know, officers were all right with me. And I knew that was part of the game. Hearing, you know, the situation with one of my former criminal colleagues, Harry, when his cell got smashed up by him, I didn't know that he was armed and that he threatened the officers. I just saw him get muftied, so I hated them more.
Yeah.
And then to find out that my dear colleague and dear friend could have been one of those officers, I mean, I was screaming out the windows, you know, like, and I meant it. Yeah. If I'd been armed and been there, I would have attacked them. You know, so hearing that different perspective is big for me as well.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know he'd taped the pot to his hands and stuff. And he was in a bad place, obviously, just being lifed off himself. You know, so there was all that going on as well. You know, I haven't talked to him after the fact. He broke the copper up and he was putting the copper in a carrier bag, thinking he was going to weigh it in.
Right.
You know, because the enormity of the life sentence had hit him, you know.
Yeah.
So seeing that other perspective and the reasons why they came to work and what they did, and, you know, you've got to thank them for the service as well. Decades of coming to work to do that job, which is an extremely difficult job.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff that's been kind of unleashed today that I never took into consideration, really.
Yeah, no, me too. It's good to be able to listen to that. You don't always have all the facts in place, and that's why I think I was lucky in getting hunted down to London, where like I didn't have any previous sort of affiliation to lads in Franklin or wherever, that my ability to become disattached and focus on myself and not get caught up in someone else's problems or what's up with you or they've fucking done this and the other. You take that as gospel, but to be able to listen to there is another side to that coin.
Absolutely. And I think another big thing from today as well, I mean, outside of the officer perspective as well, is the message that I think here in your story and mine is to anybody, young people listening into this, like, don't go down that road, because, you know, it seems to be more glamorized than ever. It's certainly with social media and all those the social media platforms, that you know, crime's become a bit sexy and it's a bit glamorous and the violence is a bit cool and it's all designer, but it isn't designer when you're in the dock facing a life sentence, and it isn't designer when you're looking at the next 20 years, or it isn't designer when you have to do 15 or 16 years of your life, or when someone finally throws that ruler at you that you've mentioned today. You know, there's nothing good about that, nothing wholesome and nothing positive.
No, nothing at all. You know, it's not often I'm left with my head in my hands, but, you know, Danny Dyer promoting march and powder, what you're doing, lad, you know, like, it's not the real world. What you're trying to sell to making out that that's all glory and gain, and you know, the path to destruction and death is really like. Well,
I haven't seen March and Powder, so I don't know.
No, I haven't seen it. I refuse.
I do know there's a mental health aspect to the movie somewhere, so that might be something that he's trying to promote. But for me, you know, in your darkest hours, and there is many dark hours when you're in prison, or you're living that life as well, because for every single time I've had brilliant time, champagne, women, lots of money. You know, my life's been under threat, or I've been trying to kill other people. You know, the police, national crime agencies, drug squad, murder squad, you know, you name it, they were through the doors. I'm sure they were for you. People don't talk about that either. The paranoia, the hypervigilance, you know, living with inherently in fear, because deep down, a lot of these big shots are in fear anyway, and I know it.
Yeah,
because I've lived it and I've seen it, you know, and I've spoken to many people as you have. And to come back to what you were saying, a lot of them who are not here now, given the opportunity to say, do you want to walk down that road now? The answer would definitely be no. Yeah.
Sad indictment. The majority would say no. I would put my I think it was the you know, be a fool not to choose this life. Darkness, sorrow, despair. You know, thankfully my mother wasn't around when I put a knife in someone and took their life, because the reality is, the dark reality is that, you know, it had been putting a knife through her heart as well. Who do that to their own
Absolutely.
mother, let alone to the worst enemy. But again, but for the grace of God, go I, and I'm still here to tell my story, and hopefully some aspects of it will show some others that there is another pathway.
Well, I think one of the big things that's come from today is I can see us doing some joint work as well and spreading the message, and you know, with Tom and Lenny, one would hope, and just getting it out there, you know, to be agents for change, like I said before.
Yeah.
So thank you.
You know, thank you. Thanks, guys.